Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It's Rock and Roll Spot Connection with my weekly comic book roundup. Quick heads up: there might not be a weekly comic book roundup next week on account of Christmas, as I may be out of town and thusly unable to pick up my books from my regular from the shop I pick up my comics from. So yeah, well. But yeah, anyways, so got a bunch this week especially because Marvel's been moving everything to the first 3 weeks of the month for this month because, well, Christmas. So, all right, let's get things started with Extermination number 5, finally. So, where we left off, Cyclops had apparently been killed by Ahab, rendering the pretty much screwing the entirety of the timeline. And so the remaining X-Men are even more just dead set on putting Ahab down. And so the X-Men square off against the Hounds and of course Ahab. And it turns out that it wasn't Cyclops that got speared, but rather Mimic, who had snagged Scott's visor and took the spear to the chest. Anyways, so the two French twins are going around turning everyone into hounds, or at least as many people as they can. The X-Men are just, are fighting a desperate battle in Cerebro. There are some really cool. There's some pretty decent splash pages like this here. All of the X-Men versus Ahab and his hounds, including the houndified X-Men. And so Jean, the young version of Jean, Cyclops, and Kid Cable have a chat. And you're kind of told, hey, we gotta leave now, or we're just not gonna be able to leave. And so but they have a plan. And so Kid Cable and the Time Displaced X-Men show up on the grounds of the future Xavier School. And of course Ahab follows, while the rest of the X-Men and Cable deal with Ahab and his ship. Young Jean goes in and has a chat with Maxine and Malin, who were students initially at the school. Turns out that Mr. Glob is teaching them English. And so Malin shows young Jean just how it is that she does her thing with memories. And during all of this, Cable and Cyclops manage to do enough damage to Ahab's time ship that it explodes. Meanwhile, Cable sends the five original X-Men back in time, and then time slides himself and Ahab back to the present. And so they put things back the way they were. Basically, right before President Beast showed up to say, hey, you guys need to come to the future. And suddenly everyone is, all of the four original X-Men are flooded with new memories, and so Jean now knows how to beat the Hounds. But Rachel remains a Hound. And her and the two that they had brought with him disappear. Kid Cable, body slides away. A few days later, we have a funeral for Bloodstorm, Mimic, and Cable. The Beast, Iceman, Jean, and Angel go out for milkshakes. And they get toast to Scott. Meanwhile, at an undisclosed location, one of Cable's various safe houses, an undisclosed location, Cable arrives, stating that it's done, and the young X-Men are back in their time, and Ahab, the future that Ahab is from isn't happening, and everything's the way it should be. And now the time has come for Cyclops to return. At least, to return publicly. As he's already apparently back. And that is where things end. There are some follow-ups. First is going to be X-Men: The Exterminator, which we already went over a few weeks ago. Then Uncanny X-Men Annual #1, which presumably tells the story of how Cyclops came to return. Next, we got Uncanny X-Men #8 as mentioned, which will be presumably part of the Age of X-Men arc. And X-Force #1, which drops next week. And will feature the members of X-Force going after Kid Cable. As they are none too happy about the fact that Jean Grey let him go. I don't know. While yes, they dealt with a lot of time travel, I think they kind of don't entirely understand the concept of if they kill him, the cable that brought them together in the first place never happens. So, anyways, moving on to Uncanny X-Men #6, where we left off here. Betsy had undone. Psylocke had undone. The Angel's brainwashing it, or at least brought out Archangel, leading to him attacking Magneto. Magneto leaves disappointed. However, Archangel is not happy about having been brought back. Psylocke tries to talk him down. Storm tries to talk him down. In the end, Archangel states that he's undecided as to whether or not he's still with X-Men or the X-Men. However, he is willing to take the X-Men, both squads, as Jean Grey's squad has arrived as well, to where X-Man is hiding out. They're met by the three other horsemen of X-Man: Omega Red, Magneto, and Blob. There's some arguing, mainly between Magneto and Jean Grey. Jubilee throws in a few choice words as well, namely referring to Magneto as Gandalf. I mean, hey, he kind of does look the part. I mean, look. Flowing white hair, flowing beard, staff. Just needs the robe, The robes are the wrong color, but hey, Anyways, so X-Men shows up. Him and Jean discuss things. He reveals what it turns out that the woman that Jean spoke with in the coffee shop way back in Uncanny X-Men #1 was actually X-Man. And she explains that, he walked away before she was finished, and that, there's always hope no matter how dark things get. Anyways, so of course the X-Men attack and get their asses handed to them, like, severely. Initially, they are suspended in the air. Jubilee fires a blast at him and gets tossed through stuff. Then she gets rescued by the students, and as well as Multiple Man and Legion. So they go to talk things through, and they're actually willing to talk. They're like, "Hey, let's talk." Well, Armor's all about talking. Rockslide kind of wants to see how long it takes him to pound X-Man into putty. But it turns out that the reason why he's doing everything he's doing is that X-Men's dying. Again. Way back in the initial run of X-Men, back in his comic run back in the 90s, it was revealed that he had a limited lifespan. So yeah, but it was thought to have been that either it was undone, that was fixed, or he faked his death. Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, he's dying. He wants to make the world. He wants to leave the world a better place than he found it, basically. And so, as far as he's concerned, making things better justifies everything he's done. And then Legion decides to send him back where he came from. And so X-Man, Glob, Armor, Rockslide, and Pixie end up in the Age of Apocalypse. And Armor sums it up pretty perfectly with the last lines in the issue. This is bad. Real bad. Next up, we've got Iceman #4. You may notice that none of the issues this week have the normal title. It's obviously to commemorate the life and celebrate the life and mourn the death of Stan Lee. It takes a while for these things to be done in comics. Sadly, otherwise, I'm sure they would have done it They would have done it that week. Anyway, so where we left off, one of the Iceman had been attacked by one of the Morlocks, who was under Sinister's control. He goes down and explains he's gonna bust dude out, but as the guy has been arrested. Anyways, his brother is kind of basically pulled a check your privilege moment on Iceman, mainly on account of the fact that Iceman, being, well, normal passing, can really, walk in, as he puts it, he can stroll into any space like he's allowed, take what he wants, and not worry about the consequences. As the two end up talking things out, and it's decided that Iceman's going to go after Sinister. Cut to 3 days later, there's a Mutant Pride event going on. Kitty and Storm are discussing everything. Kitty's going to give a speech. And Forge, Iceman, and Bishop kind of go over the what Iceman's planning to do to help the Morlocks. A brief bit showing Sinister dancing with. I mean this in the most literal way possible. Dancing with himself. Now, I'm not saying not to mean he's cloned himself and they're dancing. No, he is dancing as though he had a partner, but there isn't. Anyway, cut to the Mutant Pride Manhattan. Dazzler's, doing a performance. Apparently, Emma and her brother are in the audience. And apparently, Dazzler is switching. Decided to bring that she couldn't just pick one outfit, so she brought them all, and so we got her classic Disco Diva outfit. Then we got the her '90s outfit with the leather jacket, because hey, the '90s were all about leather jackets and pouches and stuff. Anyways, so it's shown that the MC for the evening is a mutant named Shade, who announces Kitty's arrival. Meanwhile, Iceman goes to where Sinister's hiding. It was apparently a theater where Merchant of Venice is playing, but it's the off season, so there's no one there. Bishop shows up in the sewers to gather up as many fighting Morlocks as possible, explaining that he's keeping an eye on the bigger picture. Iceman fights off various monstrous creatures, presumably further mutated Morlocks, all of whom are pretty much saying the same thing. Help me, help us, red eyes. Anyways, he falls right into Sinister's hands, and Sinister explains his plan, and in detail, like supervillains do. And he is going to study every little bit of Iceman that he can. And it's a shame that Iceman won't survive to see what he's going to make, the future he intends to make with Iceman's DNA. And so he begins the process, and it turns out that it was an Iceman that went down to meet with Sinister. It was another ice golem. And that's where the issue ends. Looks like next issue we'll be seeing Morlocks and Iceman and Ice Golems versus Sinister and Ice Golems. Next up we've got Domino number 9. This was, so anyways, where we left off Domino was, she had, after being hired by a Wakandan, she and the posse managed to avert a vampire apocalypse. And they were subsequently then hired by Wakandan. Oh, crap. She's got a Shunqua, I forgot, to take out Longshot. Now, at this point, Domino's like, no way. You know, and say, she has met him once or twice, but he's not a bad guy. There's no reason to kill him. I mean, yeah, maybe cut off his mullet, trim his mullet so it's no longer a mullet, rough him up a little, but killing him, no. So we get, and so Shunqua goes, all right, fine. Here's how things are going to go. Me and you, we're going to fight. I win. You go after Domino, or you after Longshot. So, turns out there used to be a species of bear that was native to Africa, Atlas bear. And it is extinct, but now it's come back through Shunqua. Turns out that Shunqua... anyways, Domino and Shunqua duke it out. And Dom has a smart moment as they're on her riverboat. And Shunqua is wearing armor and a bear pelt and all kinds of stuff. She tackles her off the boat and a bear hug. Yeah. So anyways, Shunqua explains what's up with her. Her father was a general. Her mother was a former member of the Dora Milaje. You may remember them from Black Panthers being the King's personal guard. But she got sick. And one night, the spirit of the last Atlas bear, it honestly looks like some kind of demon, came to her to strike a bargain. And she got she was given the ability to see into the future, but she could only see extinction, to see people die, as the last bear did of his own. But she can only see the darkest possible futures. So she goes off in their she takes them to where she tells them what she has seen concerning Longshot. Or And also, it's like kind of says, hey, he's not that innocent. He used to, kill for Mojo. And it turns out that she really concentrates. Domino can, and they're close by. Dom can kind of sort of tell where, Longshot is. Then, before leaping into battle, Shinqua shows Domino exactly what the future holds if she doesn't get rid of him. So, anyways, Domino kind of. What's really interesting about this is Domino's inner monologue discussing how basically all of those that manipulate probability, they really don't hang out. I mean, sure, Domino and Longshot are both ex-affiliates, but it's not like they'd ever really worked on a team together. In fact, the closest you would come is basically being Longshot was an X-Man and she was with X-Force, but they weren't working side by side or nothing. Anyways, turns out that Longshot's sick, and while he has an early conversation with Mojo, it basically boils down to the two of them are now as lucky as a normal person's lucky. And then she realizes that conversations that Longshot's having with Mojo are really Mojo in his head and not Mojo actually there. However, she tries to help him, but before she can help him, Mojo slips on a hard hat and falls, which is where the issue ends. I'm presuming that next month's issue is going to open with Domino leaping and managing to save him, and yeah. But really, that's kind of thing I was really interested about, what happens when the two of them are together, with their luck, with both their luck powers. It's got to be crazy. Anyways, next up we've got Dead Man Logan number 2. Where we left off here, Logan and Hawkeye were searching for Mysterio, and Mysterio had been delivered to Neo Hydra by Miss Sinister. We open up with apparently Spider-Man running from Hydra soldiers, or Neo Hydra soldiers, who apparently kill him, which Sin thinks is the coolest thing in the world. Of course, it's just a random prisoner. And so Sin basically tells Miss Sinister that, yeah, she's totally down. Turns out that Logan and Hawkeye have had shit for luck in trying to get a lead on Mysterio. However, back at Neo Hydra Island, Sin and Miss Sinister are having their disagreement about how things should be done. Sin wants other supervillains to buy it, to basically give her money to be involved in the takedown of the superheroes, whereas Miss Sinister's like, are you stupid? Just take them the fuck down. Just get everyone together and say, hey, this is what we're doing. Crossbones kind of explains to Mysterio that if he tries to pull an illusion thing on him and Sin, he won't hesitate to put a dozen bullets in the dome. This, of course, causes Mysterio to kind of ask himself what the hell he's got himself into. Also, it turns out that Forge has managed to fix the time machine and found out and has the time coordinates for the Wastelands. But he can't. He can't go home just yet. Anyways, turns out that Sin and Miss Sinister want or Sin wants Miss Sinister and Mysterio to give to practice a trial run. So, anyways, we get more of Logan and Hawkeye wading through various costume criminals. And then one of them finally is like, well, okay, hey, I'll talk. And I figured, hey, if the guy owes me money, and, looks like he ain't paying, but if you guys pay up, I'll tell you exactly where he is. Turns out he's in Times Square. And Logan looks up and sees Mysterio leading Jack-O-Lantern, Taskmaster, Lizard, the Beetle in an attack on civilians. So he shoots up some Regenics, which is of course slowly killing him, and goes to attack. So he begins the attack, and meanwhile, Hawkeye shouts that it's a trap. Because apparently he's now facing off against She-Hulk, Iron Man, Ghost Rider, and Captain America. And looking at the cover for the next issue, we're probably going to be seeing the allusion to add Boomerang with Hawkeye as Boomerang. Next up, we've got Season's Beatings, which is basically the Deadpool Christmas special. So, this is actually fairly similar to the X-Men Christmas special. We start off with Domino and Cannonball waiting on Cable at the mall, where apparently it's not Santa Claus that people are lined up to get their picture taken with, but classic X-Force. Of course, Cable's late, so he shows up. Cut to outside, and for some reason, Deadpool is napping in a dumpster with a sack full of stuff. And wearing a Santa costume, I might add. So he goes through all of it. He starts off by saying, if there's anyone who, if anyone knows Hard Luck Holidays, it's old Spidey Sad Sack. So he's on the phone. He got stuck uptown again. His costume's all kinds of torque. We see him fighting Mysterio. We see a tear revealing his underwear. We see a fight with Black Cat. We see him getting dragged by Rocket Racer. We see him passing out on a table trying to stitch his costume back together. And then he goes out and The the shop he was going to buy some perfume, I presume for MJ, is closed until after New Year's. Guy pops up and him and Pete have a chat. Cut to Miles and his buddy Gank. Gank wants some self-tying sneakers. And, Gank has apparently given up patty melts for the last 3 months to save up money for the sneakers. And he figures that, if anyone deserves to treat themselves, it's Spider-Man. And his buddy that has given up patty melts for the last 3 months. So anyways, the guy that the Peter was talking to outside the perfume shop takes off his jacket, opens up his bag. Turns out first off, he only has one arm, and inside the bag is a robot arm. Anyways, Peter runs into the alley and opens up his shirt to reveal his backup black costume. And Miles the Spider-Sense goes off, an explosion happens, and he runs in the direction. While Spider-Man is Peter's giving the dude with the bionic arm what for, and then he gets kicked in the face by Miles, who mistakes him for Venom. Giving the guy time to run away. He explains what's going on. They talk a bit. Peter passes out. Comes to in a cab. He apparently Spider-Man paid for his whole cab fare back to Aunt May's. And the cabbie, after she drops off Peter, her shift's over, so and she says, Peter, you're home in one piece on Christmas Eve. On Christmas, man. What better place you got to be? While Miles swings off into the night. Anyway, notice next story up, we've got Nuts and Bots. Latveria. Doom is giving this whole anti-Christmas speech. And then a couple of the Doom bots are talking, and apparently they can talk. We just usually only see them talking with Doom, and so it's a little just, yes, master, affirmative, confirm, simple stuff. But anyways, so they get smacked around a bit by Squirrel Girl and Tippy Toe. I presume it's Tippy Toe. Yeah, Tippy Toe it is. And so Doom continues giving his speech, and then Doom blasts the Doombot that is taking his place to give the speech, and explaining that Doom keeps no schedule, abides no seasonal custom, predictability is an affront to Doom. And then he gets attacked by Squirrel Girl. Doom's sixth most dreaded nemesis, no less. She did a Christmas present for him, wrapped in Fantastic Four wrapping paper, and he does kind of make sure that it's make a point of saying it's wrapped in the sigil of your hated rivals. You'd love to tear it asunder. But she's already, and there's no take. Doom doesn't want it though. Kruger explains that that's fine, but there's no taking it back. She's already tore up the receipt. So she leaves, and Doom rips open the wrapping paper, and It's a sack of walnuts and a Doctor Doom nutcracker. And a note saying, "Dear Doctor Doom, next time you want to crack an enemy's skull, try cracking a nut first." And then we cut back to Wade. He's like, "What the hell was that?" And this Squirrel Girl shows up. She's got a present for him. But yeah, she chucks it in the dumpster. They talk a bit. And he explains, "I'm not a supervillain. You know, maybe a little morally gray, but not a supervillain." And so, now we get to a story set in Twin Palms Mall. Kate Bishop Hawkeye is talking with a homicide detective. And they brought in her and Quentin Quire to help with a murder investigation. Mall Santa's been killed. The suspects are 5 other Mall Santas, but they ain't talking. So she manages to convince Quire to get in their heads and figure out, you know, it's a little bit harder. It's yeah, it's a bit more than you usually get with telepaths and mind reading and whatnot. It turns out that one of the Mall Santas had to make a break for it. One of them turns out to be a Skrull. I think one of them, and Quire gives Krampus, the Krampus inside the head of the first one, yeah. There's a little Die Hard reference. There's, yeah, it's something. And then, wait, just realize, wakes up in a mall dumpster dressed as Santa, covered in dry blood, and he's pretty sure he killed Mall Santa. And so apparently he killed a Mall Santa, and you know, maybe put up the things for X-Force, and yeah, he looks around and things. Apparently, Cable went into the past, grabbed a whole bunch of people that were fans of X-Force, and yeah. The two Mall Santas are digging through the dumpsters, and one of them finds the present that was chucked away aside by Deadpool. It's a Spider-Ham bank. But yeah, it's about as it's about as what you expect from it's the kind of thing you can't expect from a Deadpool Christmas special. Next up, we've got Exiles number 11, which, sad to say, everybody, is the next to last issue of the series. So where we left off, the future Kamala Khan, had appeared before the team, not dead, and with her own group of exiles. Skeletor, Killmonger, the hulked out Cap, X and 2/3, and Iron Prince. And so a fight breaks out. Basically, everyone goes after their doppelgangers. And they've all got issues, and turns out that the Watchers showed Khan, where things are supposed to be, and hey, there's a reality we can send you where, your husband, your family's still alive. And it turns out that this particular Killmonger is actually T'Challa's sister Shuri, having already killed her brother in her own universe. But Blink manages to get everyone away. They regroup, and then they realize that, oh, yeah, they're probably going to go after Blink's aunt. So, and they did. But just kind of, yeah, hey, we're not here to hurt her. We're here for you guys. However, Iron Prince and Captain don't want to take them in peacefully. They want to fight them again. So another fight breaks out. They realize, hey, the first time we went after our own, and our own doppelgangers. So let's switch it up. And so they do. And things are a bit easier that way. And little Wolvie manages to convince Khan that, maybe this isn't the best course of action. Instead, telling her, he's happy that she's alive. If she makes it back to her daughter, please don't tell her what you did here. Because, she wouldn't want her daughter to think that her mom was a bad person. And they all get taken back to their wherever their various points in reality and whatnot. Though now the exiles are going after the Watchers, who sent another team of Watchers exiled after them. And like I said, in what will turn out to be the final issue of the series. And now, moving on to Infinity Wars number 6. So, where we left off, Loki had gone to the Loki had managed to steal the stones. Anyway, so he's talking to what appear to be ancient versions of the Celestials. He's not too happy with them, and well, he kind of has a moment of he has a moment of clarity, I guess. Goes back to the Quarry of Creation, and it's just like, hey, take the stones. I'm out. So him and Floa leave, and he's asked her to take them back to Omnipotent City. Anyways, back in Soul World, various Infinity War heroes are fighting Devondra. Ghost Panther's there. Green Widow can be seen. Soldier Supreme, Warlock. Soldier Supreme is going after Gamora. However, suddenly the Infinity Stones are turned into just stones, and yeah, Soldier Supreme kind of does smack the shit out of her. Though Gamora explains that there's no way to stop Devondra. And without the stones, there won't be anyone to reorder the universe after she eats all of us. Entropy will simply follow. And so, Soldier Supreme punches her pretty much in the direction of Devondra's mouth. However, at the last second, Groot Raccoon and Rocket Groot, however you want to put it, saves Gamora, or who I might also add is carrying Arthur Douglas, but actually, it might not. It might be Peter Douglas here, but reasons. So. And explain that suddenly the stones don't work. So something's wrong. But then Emma Frost, Ant-Man, Kang, Miss Marvel, and Hulk show up with the working Infinity Stones. And so they all team together. Hulk defeats Devondra in the smartest way possible. Takes its space stone and opens a black hole, and so yeah, black hole sucks Devondra in. That's that. And so Warlock begins fixing all the unwarping everybody. The reason I said it might actually be Peter Douglas or Arthur Quill is because Arthur Douglas, or Douglas suddenly, or it was just Douglas, we now have Star-Lord, Drax, and Arthur Douglas. Also, Rocket crawls out of Groot. So, they team together. They also Moondragon and Martyr have also managed to survive from from one of the other universes a few issues ago. Drax and Arthur. It said that only one of the universes. Someone's got to hold a portal open. So Drax and Arthur hold portals open for both universes. And so the two universes survive. The Soul Stone encompasses all the heroes except for Drax and Arthur, and they land in Egypt. There's a brief scuffle, one over the fate of Gamora, and two over the stones. However, Adam Warlock takes the Time Stone, freezes everything, and decides that the stones will now decide their destinies. And he also sends Gamora away to where she will do the most good, and he relinquishes the power infinite. He explains that years ago the soul gem gave him a soul, and he thinks now he understands why. So he give the same gift now. Anyways, so the rest of the gems all go off, and Peter still keep the Soul Stone, and just as he's saying that, the Soul Stone flies off. And Warlock everyone goes on about their, splits off, goes their separate ways. Meanwhile, back on Warp World, the untimely death of Arthur Douglas is undone. And Daily Bugle reports that a team called the World Defenders has been formed, consisting of Soldier Supreme, Iron Hammer, and Weapon Hex, amongst others, of course. Meanwhile, in what appears to be Soul World, Gamora kicks open a sarcophagus in the sand, and Magus comes out. And the her hallucination of Thanos says to her, says, "Let's see how good you are at this." So apparently she's going to raise Magus. Maybe it's not Soul World. Maybe it's just, yeah. She's going to raise Magus. In Omnipotent City, Loki and Floa discuss things, and Floa decides that she's going to leave a few pages in the back in case some of the time travel elements of the story have yet to present themselves. And so she then puts the tome of her tome, Floa, first of her name, into the bookshelf. Anyways, Loki asks if she would like to come with him on his next adventure, though she declines, and he states that he knew she wouldn't come, but he might just miss her. Adam Warlock is trying to figure things out and realizes that he feels like a piece of him is missing. That piece of him most likely being Magus. Most likely. Not saying definitely, but most likely. Magus being the dark portions of his soul. And it's kind of complicated. Anyways, next up we've got Infinity Wars Fallen Guardian. So, starts off many years ago on Titan. Mentor is arguing with his son, Thanos. Thanos tells Mentor that he's an embarrassment. Thanos tells Mentor that he's an embarrassment, whereas Mentor says to Thanos that he's a danger. Cut to Earth. Arthur Douglas is a musician in Vegas, or playing in Vegas. Plays the sax. His wife and his daughter are there watching. His wife suggests they get a room for the night and drive back in the morning. It's just they'll be fine. However, Thanos' ship appears right above them, and Thanos drops down and smashes the front end of the car. Mentor arrives, offers a second chance. However, his wife cannot be saved. His daughter can be, but yeah. So the two, of course, explaining the whole concept of Arthur having had two souls, Drax and Arthur. We also get a shortened version of Drax's history and existence. And you kind of realized when Gamora has killed Thanos, perhaps he can unclench his fist. Maybe this fight is over. They talk a bit with Adam, as well as each other, Arthur and Drax. Arthur wants to go home again, and so it's suggested to him that he stays out of the desert. Anyway, Adam explains this to Drax, Rocket, and Star-Lord. And and basically it's their wishes. Cut back to Soul World. Turns out Arthur is a musician at night and a real estate agent during the day. Just him and his wife, no daughter. But every night he has the same dream of apparently Thanos attacking him and his wife. And he's wearing a purple cape. Wakes up with it from it again. Oh, you get an appearance of the Thanos copter. Because, yes, that was actually a thing that existed briefly. But Arthur's wife informs him that she's pregnant. It feels like a girl. Then, of course, they ask, well, okay, so we know where Arthur's soul is. Arthur's soul's in Warp World. What about the Destroyer? And Adam kind of, I'm not sure, but wherever the soul of the Destroyer is, I'm sure he's doing what makes him happy. And so we get this shot of Drax, the Destroyer, fighting through all manner of cosmic cannon fodder. And that's where things end. Well, okay, there's still one more one-shot related to Infinity Wars. Epilogue called simply Infinity Wars Infinity. Anyways, moving on to Old Man Hawkeye number 12. So, we left off, the Hawkeyes had managed to say Kate Bishop was getting the scientists out while Hawkeye was had gone after Zemo and killed him. But he ran into Avalanche, who's starting an earthquake, which managed to basically finish the job on blinding Hawkeye. So they fight a bit, but his eyes might not work. Clint's hearing aids were just fine. And so he kills Avalanche and makes his way to to Kate Bishop. And the two of them manage to get past all the remaining Hydra guards. But they're separated. The scientist with the suitcase full of super soldier serum and Clint on one side of things, and Kate Bishop and the other two scientists on the other. So Kate and the scientist she's got make her way out and run afoul of Bullseye, who promptly kills the two scientists. And Kate and Bullseye have a fight. First thing he does is probably the smartest thing he could do, and cuts the string of her bow. But even though she does manage to, she does get some hits in, he takes her prisoner. She's going to be a hostage. Anyways, Clint and the other scientists get out, and he tells the scientist, hey, he hears Bullseye and explains, hey, take the suitcase, hide it. If Clint survives, he'll find the doc. If not, just make sure it's hidden. So, anyways, Kate pulls out a signal arrow, sticks it into Clint or into Bullseye, and it turns on the signal. Clint lets loose an arrow. At the same time, Bullseye lets loose the Ace of Spades playing card. The arrow slices right through the card and hits Bullseye right in the eye. Bullseye's dying words being glorious. Anyways, a little while later, Taskmaster and some of the Red Skull's troops show up. Taskmaster explains that there's no sign of Bullseye or the Hawkeyes. Most things, everybody must have died. But the troops with Taskmaster are like, that's not entirely true. Like, hey, look. Like, keep that to yourself. You didn't get this far chasing someone else's stupid vendetta. Besides, if Barton's smart, he'll be satisfied with killing Zemo and the Thunderbolts. Anyway, they're heading. Hawkeyes are heading home, and of course, now Hawkeye is invigorated. We're going to take down the Skull once and for all. Kate's like, no. I was willing to help you kill Zemo, for give you some release, but no, now you want to go after the Red Skull. It's like, I'm done watching people I care about die. And so she drops him off at Logan's house and drives off. Explaining that maybe his other friend, in tears no less, but she's taking the car. She's going back to her sanctuary to take care of her kids, and she's taking the car with her. Maybe Clint's other friend will want to follow him on his next mission of revenge. Anyways, there's an epilogue. 1 year later, Himalayas. Clint's being dragged to by a couple of monks before his sensei. And he asks if sensei's the one they call Stick. He explains who he is, but he's lost his eyes, but he needs training. And he's got a way to beat the Red Skull, but he needs Stick's help. And Stick tells Clint, there's no need for him to be so formal. Just call him Matt. Because it's frickin' Matt Murdock. I thought that was actually a pretty awesome stinger page. I imagine Matt might be a little bummed that Clint took out Bullseye, but probably just glad Bullseye's off the table. Next up, we've got West Coast Avengers number 6. Oh, Christ. Where we left off, most of the West Coast Avengers were captured, except for Kate Bishop, who had managed to evade capture with the help of her mother. They had been captured by Satana Hellstrom, MODOK, Madame Mask, and the Eel. So, it's decided, though, they're not going to kill these guys. Rough them up a little. Hurt them. Sure. But not kill them. Kill them was an excellent way to have more superheroes show up on our doorstep. So anyways, they're all hanging over a pool full of sharks. Meanwhile, Kate and her mother are walking along the the tunnels underneath the place they're at. And Kate realizes they're being followed. So she lets loose some arrows. One being a flashbang, one being a little micro boxing glove arrow. And manages to take out Lady Bullseye, who is apparently carrying Hawkeye's gear. And wearing earplugs for some reason. And Kate tells her mom that she's not leaving her team behind. So as she goes back underground, notices that the headache she had has come back in spades. So she puts earplugs in, and hey, all better. So the team's being attacked. Gwenpool and Quentin are in the pool with sharks, and Gwen's punching them. And Fuse tries. Then the bottom of one of the cages opens and is almost about to drop Fuse's sister in, but he manages to somehow turn himself into water, which Satana finds to be an interesting change. Anyways, the ones that are in the pool form a plan, while Hawkeye is also working on something. And Quentin manages to knock all the water and all the sharks out of the pool telekinetically at a great strain. They're then, of course, attacked by land sharks. And the first land shark is knocked out by a makeshift bow of sorts that Hawkeye's made from his clothing and the cage that he's in. Anyways, the water manages to end up going down the hallway that Kate is in. She ends up away from everyone or further away, and then gets kicked. Of course, the supervillains are very pissed off and are not too happy about what's happened. But they're not Madame Mask isn't too worried about Kate Bishop, saying that he'll retrieve Bishop. Okay, so Kate comes to after being knocked out with a kick to the face, and is face to face with her ex-boyfriend, Novar, who claims he can explain everything, and he's sorry about kicking her in the face. Is that the he that's going to retrieve her Bishop? We'll find out next month. And it can go either way on that one. Anyways, next up we got Captain America number 6. Basically, we get the background on Alexa Lukin. We get a little more. There's a little more hints to maybe you think that it's not just Luke in this return, but also the Red Skull. So anyways, like I said, we get some background information on her. For example, she studied the mystical arts under Rasputin. Rasputin pushed her pointed her in the direction of Selene. And her and Selene worked together against the Secret Empire. And they mean they're not going to kill Steve Rogers. They're going to kill Captain America. The idea that is Captain America. Near the end, in the middle, about 2/3 of the way through, we get a bit with housekeeping finding something in a hotel room in New York City. Turns out, Thaddeus Ross has been killed. Murdered, in fact. And it's Nick Fury Jr. and Bucky that are there to tell Sharon and Cap about what's happened. But they've got some questions as well, or rather, Nick does. Namely, where was Cap the night before? And yeah, that's apparently Cap is the prime suspect in the murder of Thaddeus Ross. Can't say I'm surprised. I think we all wanted to kick that guy in the nuts. Next up, we've got Marvel Knights number 4. Focuses on T'Challa, who's going out and has no memory of having been T'Challa. But first, we see the machine why everything has happened. The machine that made the world forget all about the Sentry in the Void, which was being taken to Wakanda. But it was an ambush just stolen by Fisk. Yeah. So anyways, he babysits. He also works in a shelter We get we get to see Captain Rogers and his caregiver Sam, who has an affinity for birds. Oh crap! I meant to look into that. So, anyways, after getting tasered, she starts to remember things. Little by little, he's remembering more and more. He signs a paper. He manages to get signs the paper, get him out, released. And he's remembering little bits and pieces more and more. He fashions his own Black Panther costume, sneaks into Fisk Tower, where he sees the man who had him sign the paper, along with Wilson Fisk, as well as Doc Ock, Shocker, Taskmaster, and Crossbones. And I can't entirely tell who everyone else is. There was a very brief single panel appearance of Detective Castle, but yeah, it was kind of part of the flashback and everything. Finally, we've got The Punisher, number 5, World War Frank, chapter 5, where we left off. Frank was up against one of Zemo's higher-ranking people, who it turns out was also the I don't want to say war, but also worked with the Mandarin, and so he's wearing a couple of Mandarin's rings. Uses the flame blast, and Frank chops off the hand with the flame ring on it. Then uses an ice ring, and or maybe it was actually it looks like it's a force field ring. So he manages to remove the ring by biting the finger off. And he basically just starts hunting Hydra, working his way up with the information provided. Also, he delivers the rings, still attached to fingers or hands, to Doctor Strange. He's on his way, and he runs into Nick Fury Jr. once again. This time I'm thinking it's Chameleon again. They chat a bit. Fury explains that he's not there to stop him, Frank, but rather they are. They being Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Winter Soldier, and Hawkeye. He goes hand to hand. He honestly does a really good job taking them down. But they managed to get the drop on him. And Frank's handed over. Turns out that Zemo made a deal with Fury. That deal being... Or Zemo made a deal with Fury, not Frank. Zemo made a deal with Fury. That deal being that Zemo stays out of America and keeps all that crap out of America. And he can have Frank. I'm rather disappointed in Fury. Anyway, that's it for this week. Like I said, might not, in fact, probably won't be a video next week. due to the holiday beforehand, but so probably back in 2 weeks. But before that, I'll be posting at least a review of Aquaman some point in the near future. Anyway, feel free to, as always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to be notified of new content. And as always, Rock Roll Spock signing off, saying live long, rock hard. Also, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, guys. Thank you for watching, sharing all that over the course of the last 8 months. But yeah, love you guys. Look forward to putting out more videos in the new year. Again, live long, rock hard.